This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, October 25th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Kamala Harris turning to star power last night in Georgia as Trump stumps in Arizona and Nevada. I'm John Stolnis.
A legal door has been opened for the possible release of the Menendez brothers.
That they have paid their debt to society.
I'm Jim Roope in Los Angeles.
Former President Trump says if he's elected again, he has plans for Jack Smith.
I would fire him within 2 seconds.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Police in Tempe, Arizona have arrested a man in 3 shootings that damaged a Democratic National Committee office in suburban Phoenix. I'm Ben Thomas.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a mixed day. Tesla shares soared. They had their best day in more than 10 years. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The owner and manager of the cargo ship that caused the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge have agreed to settle a lawsuit. I'm Norman Hall.
All ahead on America in the Morning. While former President Donald Trump was talking about border issues in Arizona and Nevada, Vice President Kamala Harris is relying on star power to help her get out the vote. John Stolnis has more from Washington.
I get up in the evening.
Rock legend Bruce Springsteen performing at a big rally for the vice president last night in Atlanta.
She's running to be the 47th president of the United States. Donald Trump is running to be an American tyrant.
It was also the first time former President Barack Obama and Harris shared the stage together on the campaign trail.
We do not need 4 years of a wannabe king, a wannabe dictator running around trying to punish his enemies. That's not what you need in your life. America's ready to turn the page.
In front of about 20,000 attendees, Harris says voters will have a choice to make on November 5th.
It's either Donald Trump in there stewing over his enemies list, or me working for you, checking off my to-do list.
And she says her resume proves she is ready for the job.
I took on perpetrators of all kinds, predators, fraudsters, and repeat offenders. I took them on, and I won. Well, Georgia, in 12 days, it's Donald Trump's turn.
Trump, meanwhile, spent the early part of Thursday hammering Harris and President Biden on border policies he says have resulted in hundreds of thousands of dangerous, undocumented immigrants entering the country illegally.
We're a dumping ground. We're like a garbage can for the world. That's what's happened. That's what's happened to we're like a garbage can. You know, it's the first time I've ever said that.
Later, at a rally in Las Vegas, Trump once again promised to wipe out taxes on tips for service workers and also promised a big role for former independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Bobby Kennedy is going to straighten out our health. He's going to straighten out our health and all of that stuff. And I don't know if I'm going to have him working too much on the environment. I'm a little concerned about that with Bobby.
Later today, Vice President Harris continues to feature star power. She'll be joined by music megastar Beyonce at a rally in Houston, focusing on reproductive rights. Trump, meanwhile, will be recording an appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast with a rally in Michigan later tonight. I'm John Stolnis.
New hope for Eric and Lyle Menendez. The DA is recommending to the court that the brothers be resentenced in their conviction for murdering their parents. Jim Roope reports from Los Angeles.
Right now, Eric and Lyle Menendez are serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. L.A. County DA George Gascon, after reviewing evidence that the brothers allegedly endured physical and sexual abuse by their father, music executive Jose Menendez, he's decided
under the law, resentencing is appropriate.
Gascon will make that recommendation. The brothers admit to shooting their parents several times. In 1989, Eric was 18, Lyle was 21, fearful and fed up, according to them, with the abuse. The first trial ended in a hung jury. The second trial resulted in convictions of life in prison without the possibility of parole. The jury believed the murders were financially motivated. Among the new evidence reviewed by the DA is a handwritten letter sent by Eric to a cousin 8 months before the murders, about the alleged abuse at the hands of their father, which was not allowed in the second trial.
And I do believe that the brothers were subjected to a tremendous amount of dysfunction in the home, and molestation.
But the resentencing recommendation is not just about the conviction or the current evidence. The prison records are also a big part of Gascon's decision. He says when people are sentenced to life and they're never getting out, they usually go one of two ways: either bad, getting into trouble, joining gangs inside prison, or they embark on a journey of redemption and rehabilitation. Gascon says Eric and Lyle, for the better part of the past roughly 30 years, took the path of redemption and rehabilitation, improving the lives of others on the inside.
Creating groups to deal with how to address untreated trauma. Creating groups to deal with other inmates that have physical disabilities.
While Gascon will make the recommendations to the court, it is ultimately up to a judge to decide if there will be a hearing on the matter. If a judge does decide and the brothers are resentenced to second-degree murder, they could be eligible for parole immediately. Jim Roope, Los Angeles.
Democratic campaign office under attack. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back on where those rain chances are today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Through the day today, the best chance for precipitation by far will be over parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes regions, where a cold front will continue on its journey through the eastern states after producing severe weather from eastern Kansas to Illinois on Thursday evening. This feature won't have quite the same amount of energy to work with as it did yesterday, so even the risk for thunder should be quite minimal. However, showers can be expected from Illinois to eastern parts of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and points eastward from western New York State into Pennsylvania, perhaps also reaching across the Ohio border into West Virginia by late in the day. Behind this front, a dry and rather comfortable air mass settles into the northern and central plains. While many of these places still need quite a bit of rain, amid what are in some spots rapidly spreading drought conditions, today does at least offer a nice day for any plans heading into the weekend. A similar story follows through the southern plains, where it will be warmer than areas farther north, but dry for most outside of perhaps a couple of showers along the coast of far south Texas. The southeast and the east coast also look to be dry today under a large zone of high pressure. Even the west will be dry in almost all locations in the work week today, as a separate area of high pressure dominates the pattern. However, clouds will remain in place from Washington into parts of Oregon today in advance of the next storm reaching the Pacific Northwest, bringing rain starting tonight and lasting through the weekend in spots along the coast, eventually spreading inland to Idaho and Northern California. In Fresno, California, look for plenty of sunshine today with a high of 84. For Indianapolis, it's going to be warm today with a couple of showers around and a high of 72. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The future for Special Counsel Jack Smith is becoming clearer under a second Trump presidency if the former president is elected in November. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Special Counsel Jack Smith was appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland back in 2022, and he charged former President Donald Trump over alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election and mishandling of classified documents. Now, that case was dismissed, and after a presidential immunity ruling by the Supreme Court, Smith's other case against Trump took a big hit and essentially has been on hold ever since. This week, Trump was posed a question about Smith during an interview on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
You're either going to have to pardon yourself or you're going to have to fire Jack Smith. Which one will you do?
Oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. He's a crooked person. I would fire him within 2 seconds.
Certainly no mistaking what he plans to do, but as far as how to do it, if elected, Trump could order the Justice Department to remove Smith. It's believed, though, he would not be able to do it on his own because Smith is not a presidential appointee. I'm Clayton Neville.
More is being learned about the Arizona man suspected of shooting up a Democratic campaign office. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports police found a small arsenal in his home.
Police in Tempe, Arizona have arrested a man in 3 shootings that damaged a Democratic National Committee office in suburban Phoenix. 60-year-old Jeffrey Michael Kelly is also accused of hanging political signs criticizing Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris that were lined with razor blades. The Maricopa County prosecutor says federal agents seized guns and over 250,000 rounds of ammunition from Kelly's home. Scopes, body armor, and silencers were also found, while a machine gun was discovered in the car he was driving. It's all leading law enforcement to believe he may have been planning a mass casualty event. Kelly's being held on 3 felony counts of acts of terrorism and 4 other counts. I'm Ben Thomas.
American Airlines CEO reacts to Boeing strike when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for stocks yesterday. The major averages are on pace for a losing week after hitting record highs last week.
As Tesla has extended its gains, NVIDIA's riding along. So you had a little bit of an improvement in underlying breadth. Big picture earnings, I think, have mostly done what you want to see.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Tesla shares up almost 22% yesterday. The best day for that company in more than 10 years. Tesla bears are saying the big profit in the quarter was on the back of environmental credits and not actual car sales. McDonald's supplier, Taylor Farms, being investigated in the E. coli outbreak. Taylor's recalled 4 of its raw onion products. Nearly 50 people were sickened by E. coli, 1 death, traced to quarter pounders, possibly the onions on them. Burger King, meantime, which does get some onions from the Taylor Farms Colorado facility, has been throwing those out. There have been no illnesses reported from BK Food. Striking Boeing workers voted no on the company's latest contract offer. They're on picket lines again this morning. No planes are getting built. For airlines that need to replace old jets and need to increase the number of seats they offer, they're just looking at Airbus and other plane makers. Here's the CEO of American.
For Boeing, it's just, I look forward to the day when they're not just a distraction. We've been struggling with them for, over the last 5 years. As we take a look forward, we're going to make sure that we're protected.
American Airlines CEO Robert Isom on CNBC. The owner of Coach was blocked from buying the owner of Michael Kors by a judge. In the fashion industry, as anti-competitive, the Tapestry purchase of Capri would have created one of the largest luxury fashion companies in the U.S.
Have unemployment numbers spiked in light of the recent hurricanes in the South?
So usually when hurricanes force businesses to close or even wipe them out, there is a spike in people applying for unemployment benefits. So the mystery is it really hasn't happened yet. The number of people who applied for benefits last week in the U.S. was down.
I'm not seeing the effects of this hurricane in the jobless claims. I think we expected them to be up. Right. It was because of that. There's a little pop, 4,000 in Florida. I don't see it in North Carolina. I don't know if the hurricane effect has passed through, is yet to come, but it seems to be gone. Very interesting as to whether or not and how much it shows up in the jobs numbers when we get them in November.
CNBC's senior economics reporter Steve Leisman. On today's watch list, we get durable goods orders for last month. Things made to last a long time, like washing machines and airplanes. Earnings are coming from Colgate, Palmolive, and AutoNation. New in theaters, Focus features Conclave and Sony's third Venom movie, Venom: The Last Dance.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, Sunshine State sues the Justice Department. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. The government and the operator of a cargo ship that destroyed a bridge in Baltimore that led to 6 people being killed have reached a massive financial settlement. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
Officials say the owner and manager of the cargo ship that caused the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge have agreed to pay more than $100 million to settle a lawsuit brought by the Justice Department. The suit against Dolly owner Grace Ocean Private Limited and manager Synergy Marine Group seeks to recover funds the government spent to clear the underwater debris and reopen Baltimore's port. The settlement does not include any damages for rebuilding the bridge. That could cost close to $2 billion. The state of Maryland filed its own claim seeking those damages. I'm Norman Hall.
Florida officials are suing the Justice Department over its control of the investigation into the September assassination attempt against Donald Trump. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
Florida suing Attorney General Merrick Garland after he ordered the state to pause its investigation into the golf course incident. Florida's Attorney General Ashley Moody says the state is suing the Justice Department after it was told not to interview witnesses or take other steps while the federal investigation was ongoing into the discovery of an armed man at Donald Trump's West Palm Beach golf resort. The Justice Department cited federal law, which says an attempted assassination of a political candidate will be investigated by the FBI, and state jurisdiction is then suspended. Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis said state charges against the suspect, Ryan Ruth, would be pursued in addition to federal charges. I'm Jackie Quinn.
America in the Morning for Friday, October 25th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Early voting records come with some kinks. I'm Clayton Neville.
VP candidates hit the campaign trail, and Boeing workers react to the no settlement vote.
Russian accounts are spreading and amplifying misinformation about hurricane response in the U.S. Jennifer King, Washington.
President Biden will apologize Friday for a 150-year Indian boarding school policy. I'm Ed Donahue.
Despite problems at McDonald's and Boar's Head, experts say the food supply is safe.
The CDC doing a really good job.
I'm Shelley Adler.
The new Venom movie is offering more action and aliens in theaters this weekend. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Here's the Friday national forecast with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A mainly dry day is expected for the entirety of the western United States today as high pressure holds firm over a large portion of the nation. Dry and rather comfortable conditions will hold strong through the day from interior portions of the Pacific Northwest into mainly northern Utah and Colorado. South of there, warmer air remains in place from southern Nevada and central California through southern Arizona and New Mexico. However, cloudy skies can be expected for western Washington and northwestern Oregon, where the next approaching strong disturbance will roll on shore, with periods of steady rain arriving during the evening hours. This signals the start of a rather wet period for the Northwest, where showers and steadier rain at times will continue through the weekend from the northwestern corner of California through most of western and northern Oregon, most of Washington state, and eventually into northern Idaho, bringing an increasing risk for flash flooding as these rounds of rain continue. Strong winds over the water will funnel in more and more moisture to fuel this days-long event, and there can be snow in the northern Washington Cascades as well. Otherwise, a fairly nice and dry day is in store for the central and northern plains today behind a cold front. The southern plains also will be dry today, just slightly less comfortable beneath a warmer air mass. A few showers can sneak into coastal portions of the lower Rio Grande Valley with dry conditions for the southeast. It also stays dry today from the mid-Atlantic into New England and much of the northeast, but a cold front carving through the Great Lakes brings showers from Illinois and the far eastern upper peninsula of Michigan through lower Michigan and as far east as western parts of New York and Pennsylvania by day's end. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Early voting across America has election officials hard at work ahead of Election Day. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports that with record turnout comes a number of issues at some American polling locations.
A slew of activity from procedural to criminal. In Arizona, more than a dozen ballots were damaged after a mailbox was set on fire in Phoenix. A 35-year-old man was arrested, and state officials say most of the ballots were salvaged. The voters behind the ballots that couldn't be saved, though, are being contacted. And from the jail to the courts, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled this week that the state has to count provisional ballots for voters whose mail-in ballots were rejected or improperly filled out. It's essentially a defeat for Republicans and could give thousands of voters in that state a second chance to vote. Meanwhile, early voting records are being broken in some battleground states like North Carolina and Georgia, and a record turnout in Louisiana and Texas on the first few days of early voting.
That's a pretty long line. I don't know if I've seen a line that long when things are running smoothly.
Clay Jenkins is the Dallas County judge and is encouraged by the turnout.
Well, I think the presidential race is probably top of mind for everyone. But I think because we've got this close Senate race, and because it's on television a lot, and you can't really turn on your TV without seeing a Cruz or an all-red commercial, that spurred interest as well. So I think you can see it in these lines today.
In Tennessee, there were complaints about the touchscreens on voting machines. Some voters had issues and were making selections that they didn't mean to. Election officials there say, though, it's not a question of equipment, instead how it's being used. A lot of people were using their fingers instead of a stir stick or a stylus, and local officials were quick to post signage with instructions and an online video.
So you don't aim for the box, you aim for the middle. Or use a stylus. And then you can check and make sure that these are what you wanted.
Bruce Sherbett's an election administrator in Texas and says that voters can track how busy a polling place is online.
They have maps that they post, and it shows the locations and also what the expected wait time is. So if you see a green, we're thinking it's less than 20 minutes. If it's yellow, it's 20 to 40. If it's red, it's over 40.
In Wisconsin, officials say that voting lines are moving faster now as label printing issues caused by a system update are being resolved. The kinks are being worked out nationwide as election workers face long days and Americans, in many cases, brave long lines. I'm Clayton Neville.
All the talk about the two who want to be president aside, J.D. Vance and Tim Walz have been crisscrossing battleground states, making their case for their running mates and against their challengers for the White House. Correspondent Rita Foley has the latest.
Governor Walz has to go around and somehow convince the American people that Kamala Harris is going to solve the very problem she's been creating over the last 3.5 years. That is tough. We should feel bad for him. We should say a prayer for Governor Tim Walz, because that is a tough, tough job.
Being at McDonald's, he looks much more like Ronald McDonald than the clown that he actually is. Tell me you don't see this one coming from a mile away. And Ronald wears less makeup.
Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's running mate, cast an early ballot Wednesday in St. Paul, Minnesota, a few days after pleading with Americans.
Please, America, show some sanity and elect Kamala Harris because they need us.
But Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, campaigning in Battleground, Arizona, has a novel idea for how to get Trump back in the White House.
I want every person in this room to get out there and vote 10 times.
Vote 10 times?
We're going to vote 10 times the legal way. And that means taking yourself to the polls and get 9 of your friends and family. Get them to the polls, make sure they vote the right way, and that's how we take this country back.
But Harris running mate Tim Walz says he's sick and tired of hearing about Donald Trump.
I get damn tired of talking about this guy. I get tired of seeing him on TV.
His advice for those who feel like he does?
So if you're sick of this guy, Kamala Harris is offering you a new way forward and a better tomorrow.
We're going to turn Arizona red, we're going to turn America red, and we're going to make Donald Trump the next president of the United States.
I'm Rita Foley.
The picket signs will be staying up after Boeing factory workers reject the company's latest contract offer by a wide majority. Correspondent Donna Warder has details.
They get their pension, don't they? CEOs get $100 million worth of stock options when they retire. I mean, I'm the guy that they froze the pension on a 51% vote. Now we're saying it's time to give us back.
I want to see something more
on the contract with our 401k.
A lot of people that have been here for X amount of years and not having a raise. And we're seeing other companies, Shippers Union, 67% raise. I'm like, and the people that have been here in this leading industry, the biggest aerospace company in the world, we like to see better from them. And we deserve better from them.
Members voted to reject the company's latest offer by 64%.
John Holden, president of the International Association of Machinists, District 751, announced the vote Wednesday, saying the strike would continue.
I am proud of this membership. They will continue to stand strong on the picket line. We will stand for the demands that our members need to get a contract that they can respect, that shows the respect that they deserve.
Boeing didn't have a comment on the vote.
There's much more work to do. We will push to get back to the table. We will push for the members' demands as quickly as we can, and we remain on strike.
The strike is depriving Boeing of much-needed cash it gets from delivering new planes to airlines. On Wednesday, the company reported a third-quarter loss of more than $6 billion. I'm Donna Warder.
President Biden to issue apology to Native Americans. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. I'm John Trout. There have been reports of election disinformation coming from nations including Russia, Iran, and China. Now comes word that some stories on social media about U.S. hurricane response may be coming from the Kremlin. Correspondent Jennifer King has more.
There are plenty of legitimate concerns about recovery efforts after Milton or Helene, but the Institute for Strategic Dialogue found posts linked to Russian state media and online accounts were spreading English-language content with fake images, like flooding at Disney World that never happened. Among the posts circulating were anti-Semitic attacks against the Director for Public Affairs at FEMA and the mayor of Asheville, North Carolina. The findings are consistent with previous Kremlin campaigns to exploit legitimate debate about hot-button issues. Melanie Smith, Director of Research at ISD, describes it as pouring gasoline on fires that already exist. Another study by researchers at the Israeli tech firm Cyabra found a significant number of posts on X criticizing FEMA's storm response couldn't be verified as coming from a real person. And under the most popular posts seen over 500 million times, a quarter of the responses were fake. Jennifer King, Washington.
Later today, President Biden will be in Arizona, where he will issue a landmark apology for the federal government's role in forcing Native American children into boarding schools. Ed Donahue reports.
The apology runs close to the heart for Deb Haaland, the first Native American to lead the Interior Department.
For more than a century, tens of thousands of Indigenous children, as young as 4 years old, were taken from their families and communities and forced into boarding schools.
It happened to Holland's family. President Biden says this should have been done a long time ago.
Make a formal apology to the Indian nations for the way we treated their children for so many years.
A government investigation documented nearly 1,000 deaths and 74 grave sites associated with more than 500 schools. In his apology, the president says, as a people who love our country, we must remember and teach our full history, even when it is painful. I'm Ed Donahue.
The Georgia men found guilty of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery have asked for a new trial. Correspondent Norman Hall following the case.
3 white men serving life in prison in Georgia for murder after chasing and killing Ahmaud Arbery in 2020 returned to court Thursday to ask a judge for a new trial. Attorneys for Greg McMichael, his son Travis McMichael, and their former neighbor William Bryan made a range of arguments, including a tainted jury and ineffective counsel for one of the men. The same judge who handled their 2021 murder trial and handed down their sentences set aside up to 2 days to hear their legal motions. The men were also convicted of federal hate crimes. The jury concluded the trio targeted Arbery because he was black. I'm Norman Hall.
With the E. coli situation surrounding McDonald's and Listeria causing people to get sick eating Boar's Head deli meat, correspondent Shelley Adler reports on the safety of the country's food supply.
from Boar's Head deli meat and waffles to McDonald's Quarter Pounders. This year's illness outbreaks and food recalls may have Americans wondering whether there are new risks in the food supply. Donald Schaffner is a food science expert at Rutgers University.
They see this listeria outbreak. There was a listeria waffle recall. There's this outbreak, and I don't think they're an indication that the sky is falling. I think they're probably just either coincidence and or the CDC doing a really good job of finding these problems for us.
The FDA says the country ranks near the top for food safety out of 113 countries included in the Global Food Security Index.
They're running just as fast as they can to stay in the same place because CDC is finding more and more of these outbreaks that previously we had not been able to detect.
I'm Shelley Adler.
AI has been regulated and discussed by most tech-savvy nations, but the U.S. has just made a major move in more quickly adopting its use to help defend our interests in this emerging tech marketplace. Chuck Palm has that story in today's Tech Report.
The White House has set out a directive to several federal agencies regarding the use of AI in the government. Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, said in remarks at the National Defense University that we have to be faster in deploying AI and our national security enterprise than America's rivals are in theirs. Sullivan added, the effort intends to balance the need for fair competition and open markets while protecting privacy, human rights, and ensuring that AI systems do not undercut national security. This is the latest move by the Biden administration to address AI as Congress efforts to regulate the emerging technology have stalled. Sullivan also said that AI is different from past innovations that were largely developed by the government, that instead development of AI systems have been led by the private sector. Now, he said, it is poised to transform our national security landscape. AI is a rapidly evolving technology that has prompted governments worldwide to seek regulation in that industry. I'm Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning's Robert Workman has Friday sports.
NHL, the Jets edged the Kraken 4-3 on Neil Pionk's overtime goal. Winnipeg a perfect 7-0 to start the season. Panthers over the Rangers, New York's first regulation loss this season. Sergei Bobrovsky made 24 saves for his 400th career win. That's 14th all time. Wild deflected the Lightning. Minnesota still unbeaten in regulation. Wins for the Stars, Blues, Red Wings, Hurricanes, and Avalanche. NBA, the Timberwolves tipped the Kings 117-115. Julius Randle had 33 points. Anthony Edwards 32, including the clinching free throws with 2 seconds left. Mavericks kicked off the Spurs 120-109, 28 for Luka Doncic. Klay Thompson 22 in his Dallas debut.
A lot of nerves, anxiousness. After a few minutes and you see one go through, you feel great. Great debut. It feels good just to get the first one out the way.
Celtics slammed the Wizards and the Thunder rocked the Nuggets. The revitalized Rams ripped the Vikings 30-20 to kick off NFL Week 8. LA got receivers Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back from injuries, and Matthew Stafford was able to spread the ball around, throwing 4 touchdown passes. Back-to-back wins for the Rams, while Minnesota has lost 2 games in 5 days after a 5-0 start. College football Week 9, last night number 19 Pittsburgh improved to 7-0 with a 41-13 rout of Syracuse. The Panthers picked off 5 passes and returned 3 of them for touchdowns. Tonight, number 17 Boise State with Heisman hopeful Ashton Jeanty travels to UNLV. Soccer, the U.S. women beat Iceland in a friendly in Austin, Texas. Alyssa Thompson got her first international goal. The two meet again Sunday in Nashville. And tonight, Game 1 of the World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees in L.A. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. Star power for the Harris campaign when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Not a typical venue for music superstar Beyoncé to perform. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports Queen Bee will appear at a campaign rally today for Vice President Kamala Harris.
people familiar with the matter who are not authorized to speak publicly tell the Associated Press Beyonce will be at Kamala Harris's rally Friday in Houston, which is Beyonce's hometown. The Harris campaign did not comment. Beyonce had given Harris permission early in her campaign to use the song Freedom, which has been Harris's walkout music. Beyonce had given tickets to her Washington concert last year to Harris and her husband Doug Emhoff. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
The latest installment of the Venom movie series is out this weekend. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Venom: The Last Dance.
Sony is desperately trying to keep its Spider-Man adjacent properties alive this year with a third Venom movie.
Eric, I need more money.
Venom: The Last Dance finds Eddie Brock and his symbiote on the lam while an immortal being from outer space is sending an army to search for Venom. Meanwhile, under a decommissioned Area 51, a group of scientists are tinkering with other symbiotes.
Eddie, my own, has found us.
If you like the first two Venom movies, you should enjoy this one because it's entirely the same type of film.
I'm giving you a chance, sweetie.
Unfortunately, these movies have all been subpar superhero pulp that feels like they've been stripped from the 90s.
We are.
Venom!
No.
Oh!
Yeah, we
are.
Venom. We're gonna need to work on that.
A surprisingly good cast, including Tom Hardy, Juno Temple, and Chiwetel Ejiofor, struggle to carry the silly script, which feels like it's been written by a group of hyperactive children on a diet of sugar cereal and pixie sticks.
Delicious! You take me to all the finest places.
Goofier than the later Thor movies with overdone, goopy visual effects, this superhero flick is fine, but like the other two, could have been so much better.
You're not going to like this.
No, I can absolutely guarantee you I'm not gonna.
Venom: The Last Dance gets 2.5 alien blobs out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
Heading into the weekend before Halloween, it's been a while since gas prices have been this low. AAA says the nationwide average price for a gallon of regular is now $3.15. 18 states have gas prices averaging below $3 a gallon. Another 14 states are below the national average. Only California, which has the highest gas prices in the nation, along with Washington State, Hawaii, and Alaska, have gas now selling above $4 a gallon. America in the Morning for Friday, November 25th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.